Welcome, everybody. Today's session is going to focus on the use of hydrogen to decarbonize industries. So for that, we have our colleague with me, Manuel from Repsol, and myself, Mercè from SmartEnergy, and we are going to present different case studies for the use of hydrogen for different types of industries. Myself, I will be focused on the cement, on the ceramics industry, and my colleague on the refineries. All right. So I will go through this presentation at any point in time. Just please stop me or whatever. Or after, we can just go start a round of questions. Perfect. So I'm having here this command, and I hope it works. All right. So first of all, who are us, SmartEnergy? We are actually project developers and also investors in renewable energy. So it's been around 11 years that we have been focusing on deploying large-scale solar plants across Europe. And 3 years ago, more or less, 2.5 years ago, we decided to add to our portfolio renewable hydrogen plants. So that means coupling or huge pipeline, gigawatt-scale pipeline of solar plants with the electrolyzers and the end users. And we are not only coupling the electrolyzers with our PV plants, but also we are examining the possibility to add wind in our portfolio as well. That we are going to do that for one of the projects in our Iberia Peninsula. And we have around close to 2 gigawatts of hydrogen plants, a pipeline. And that pipeline is distributed across our 4 geographies, meaning Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Germany. The most advanced ones are actually in the Iberia Peninsula, but is simply because, or actually the most mature or more, say, significant pipeline of solar is there, and is where we started our business in, what's that? Sorry. Hi. Okay. No worries. Things happen. And I was saying that we have the most mature pipeline in our Iberia Peninsula of hydrogen projects. And one of them is actually focused here in Spain, as you can see. So we have decided not only to take the risk approach in terms of geographical distribution, meaning Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Germany, but also to decrease the risk in terms of the off-takers, diversity in off-takers. So we have for ammonia, methanol, also hydrogen used in industry like the ceramics or the cement industry. This one is located in one of the major hubs of ceramics in Europe. So that's the region of Valencia, of Castellón. And you may not be familiar with the region, but actually when you go to the supermarket and go to buy oranges, like 95% of the oranges that you buy come exactly from there. So I come from that region, and that's what we live from that agriculture, from oranges. But also the families, friends, neighbors, etc., they live out of the ceramic industry. And that's our way of living. So that industry right now is running on natural gas. Because of the prices, also because of the geopolitical situation, you can imagine how difficult it is now for those companies, for the workforce to survive. The prices are picking up, and that would be almost quite impossible to manage in the short term. That's why the urgency and the importance to switch fuels. And we started focusing on that project there, which is focused on a cluster of companies, more than 20 SMEs, small and medium companies. And for all of those companies, in total, they manage around more than 20,000 jobs. So imagine what's on stake. So this project is not only important in terms of savings of emissions or costs, but also is a matter of workforce. And I'm going to switch to the next slide. This is like, in brief, the summaries, like the most important points of the project. So all of the companies that we are dealing with, this cluster, more than 20 SMEs, they are on board with the project. They are on board with us. They are ready to switch from natural gas to hydrogen. And also in terms of other benefits, and important now we are dealing with regulation, is the delegated act of additionality, which we don't know yet, we don't have it yet at hand, but we know more or less how it will look like. And for that, it's also very important to remark that for renewable energy supply, we will have the PV plants directly connected to the electrolyzer, which are fully compliant with that upcoming delegated act. And also, we have a proximity to the natural gas pipeline and proximity to the port for export. So the project will be composed like in a first phase of a 100% 100 megawatt electrolyzer connected to a 50 megawatt renewable energy plant. That, of course, is only like the first phase. We have a natural gas consumption of around 16,000 gigawatt hours. That's huge. So you can imagine actually the potential of that project. We are not going to stop at 100 megawatts. That project is huge. So in the next phases, that will be much, much larger. But at the moment, we will focus on that one. So the main off-taker are mentioned, that's the ceramic industry. But also, there's the possibility, of course, for injecting it into the natural gas grid and also for use in mobility. This is the layout of how the project looks like. So we have like represented on the top and at the bottom the different industries because those 20 SMEs are distributed around more or less like across 15 kilometers from north to south, more or less. And then we will have the hydrogen distributed to those companies that depending on who starts first, the closest one or the farthest ones, either via dedicated the pipeline for the hydrogen or via the truck. Also, I would like to walk you through how far we are for the project. So we have represented here what we have secured so far. So the land for the electrolyzer, that's secured. The land for the PV, that's secured. And the most important components also considering the, say, environmental assessment, that's done. So let's say this is quite advanced. So we are envisioning for the COD around the end of 2025 to be more or less realistic. And that's more or less actually the timeline of the other H2 projects that we have in that close to 2 gigawatt pipeline that I mentioned. Those 2 gigawatt pipeline spread across more or less like 15, 16 projects. Most of them are also COD 2025. And by the way, also important to know that at this point in time, at this early stage development phase, we are also having conversations with investors to come on board with us. Because we are investors, but we don't do the job alone. So at this point, we welcome other investors to join us. And this is the point to actually reach more mature conversations with them. So if any of you are also in this business, we can talk about this later. This is the geographical distribution of the more than 20 companies that I mentioned. As you can see, in that is like to show the density of the potential demand. And also we have the H2 that will be injected into the natural gas grid, and of course the hydrogen that would be valorized and either used by those industries itself to burn it, or for, if it's high quality oxygen, that can be valorized and used by hospitals, for example. And then, as mentioned, we have the electrolyzer, the PV plant, the substations, that's secured, and are all closely located within a radius of around 5 kilometers. So that's also why we call it a cluster. Then, the stakeholders, we have them on board. And it's important to remark that we not only have them, but also we have the full support of the sectoral associations. That means ASTER and ANFEC. The first one is one of the, say, the tiles, the ceramics. And the second one is for the colors and fruits. So that's what you put on the top of the tile. And also public sector stakeholders. We have also the full support of the regional government from the Valencian community, and also the local government in the municipality where the electrolyzer and all the main components are located. As well, it's extremely important to have the support of R&D stakeholders. So all of these that you can see here, the Centro Nacional de Hidrógeno, that's the National Center of Hydrogen of Spain. And also we have the support of different technological centers to help us mature and actually materialize this project. So this slide is actually quite generic for this discussion of the use of hydrogen in industry, simply just to point out what are the, say, challenges that we are facing and also obstacles. We have to deal with all of this. That's not easy at all, as you know, that most of you also are in this sector and dealing with this type of projects. But one of the most difficult ones, I would point to two, is at the right, at the bottom, or at your left. That would be the funding opportunities for industry. I have put it that in a tick mark, but actually I should put it like in a red cross because it's very, very challenging to find public funding opportunities for these projects. Because of course the competition is fierce, is very, very hard. So you really need to be very, very good, form very strong consortia, and know what you are doing to actually get that public funding, which is extremely important to reduce the risk and the LCOH of the hydrogen. And that, of course, if we manage to bring public funding on board, then the more attractive our projects will be for the private investors and also institutional investors. And one of those, say, obstacles that I'm going to cover very briefly at the right is about the technology concerns. That's also because, in our case, for the ceramic industry, actually is composed of 3 industries in one. So we will have the manufacturers of the ceramics, the tiles. Also, we have the ones of the, say, fruits and colors, what you put on the top, which they use the kilns. And there's a third one that is that manufactures powder also for the top of the tiles. And that one uses cogeneration turbines. So we are also talking about the, say, availability, whether we have or not, the available technologies like for the turbines to burn hydrogen, and also at what percentages. Because at the end of the day, what we want is to do a 100% switch, 100% full switch. So that actually would mean that the gas turbine will have to burn 100% hydrogen, and the kilns as well. And that's a difficulty at the moment. So we are dealing with that, talking to technology providers, but that situation should be solved soon if we are to, say, materialize this project. And that's what I was mentioning about the burning hydrogen in the kilns. That at the moment, and this, for example, is some material from SACMI, that's a technology provider. They mentioned actually that to burn like percentage of hydrogen like above 50%, which at the end of the day is what we want, right? Then we will need to do some technological adaptations, or they should do some technological adaptations. They should work on those technologies to supply it to us, to actually be able to materialize this project. So now we are at this point, having these conversations, and once we get the technology that we need, we actually can do the full switch. And this is my last slide. I just wanted to mention that all the stakeholders, the most important ones, are on board fully with us, and they are ready to do the full switch from natural gas to hydrogen. And we believe that for them, that's the best solution that they have at hand, also if we want that industries to survive. And as mentioned, we are investors as well, and welcome the conversations with other investors in our projects. So happy to discuss anything after this talk. Thank you.